In France, there's a backlash to the Me Too movement. Actually, in France, it's called the balance ton porc. Is that how you say it?
Balance ton porc.
Balance ton porc,
yeah.
Which means call out your pig. So Me Too movement, much like the one here, it calls out all the past stories of people encountering sexual misconduct and sexual assault. And there are 100 actresses or women in France of high repute who have signed on to this initiative to kind of lash back out against the Me Too movement. They say Catherine Deneuve is an actress who's a very famous actress who she leads the charge. They say things like rape is a crime, but trying to seduce someone even persistently or cack-handedly is not. Nor is men being gentlemanly a macho attack. Men have been punished summarily, forced out of their jobs when all they did was touch someone's knee or try to steal a kiss, said the letter, which was also signed by Catherine Millet. I don't think it's the right method to change things. It is excessive. She says, after calling out your pig, what are we gonna have? Call out your whore? They think that the ability to seduce is essential. And as women, we do not recognize ourselves in this feminism, which beyond denouncing the abuse of power, takes on a hatred of men and sexuality. What do you guys think about this?
When I read it, I'm like, is this from an MRA website? What is happening here?
Men's rights advocate.
Yes, men's rights. So let's not forget that Catherine Deneuve is friends with Roman Polanski. They were together on the red carpet last year at Cannes. She supported him. She came out and, and saying that that case has been adjudicated. He has an understanding with that woman, whatever the hell that means. I don't get it, dude. I mean, yeah, men should lose their job for trying to steal a kiss at work. You're at work. You're not supposed to be stealing kisses. You're supposed to be working. That's not okay. There is one thing in the article which I had trouble finding today, but there's a paragraph in there where I don't know exactly if she wrote this entirely or if it's written by someone else and a bunch of women just sign on to it, but there's a paragraph in there where she talks about how women should be able to just forget about incidents. If you get molested in public transportation, it should be something you should be easily able to shake off, and it shouldn't be something that has a lasting impact on you. Women should not be reduced to just being their bodies. We are much stronger beings. And so I bring to you, Catherine Deneuve, that when that happened to me, I was 11 years old, okay? And you could say that, you should be able to shake it off. And yeah, but then it happens once and twice, 3 times. So she doesn't speak for the majority of French women, right? I don't think this is representative of the movement in France. She's a rich woman that probably always had town cars, ride around town. She's never had to take public transportation where they're packed like sardines. She should understand that that's French, right? Right, and so
Comme les sardines.
Yeah, I don't know who she's speaking for, but she's certainly not speaking for me or the women that, are part of this movement, because we are speaking about what happened to us. We are not, in some wild goose chase. We're not trying to have all men, jailed in prison for, making a joke, making a compliment. That's not what's happening here. We're talking about serious issues like rape, sexual assault, molestation, and harassment and all this stuff. So I don't get it.
You're right. But if we had 5 words, first of all, awesome, Irina. I agree with you 100%. Thank you for revealing about things that happened to you. If I had 5 words, it would have been, it's all fun and games till it happens to you. And it seems like when you read this, and when you read this article, that there's such a lack of sensitivity. There's such a lack of humanity with what she's saying. It's very like, oh, whatever, just fine. Yeah, it's very careless, very flippant.
There's one part of the response that, circulated. The response to her statements was, there's nothing really new in the arguments they use. They're like the embarrassing colleague or tired uncle who doesn't understand what's happening. That's it. It's this weird detachment. I've heard a lot of people though say, all right, what do we do next? Like, what is the tangible change? I just think that there's this weird instinct that folks like Catherine Deneuve have, which is to get mad at people who are just sharing their feelings. Right, and sharing their experiences and their feelings. It's such a weird instinct.
It's because I think it's shaking up the status quo. I think because we're in this amazing moment of change within the industry where women and men alike are feeling emboldened to come forward with their experiences and say, like, look, time's up, this isn't okay. This is what happened to me. If me sharing my experience empowers someone else to come forward, or just to know what your rights are and how you should be treated in the workplace, then great. But it does shake things up. And I think that I had sort of a similar response when I was reading the letter. It just sort of feels really like someone that doesn't understand what's happening and that is reluctant to listen to the voices of change, and is like, well, it hasn't affected me, so therefore it's very diminishing to the people that are coming forward. To say like stealing a kiss, that was something that you and I talked about yesterday.
It's weird.
That's not like you're missing it. You're not listening to the people. Is it a cultural
thing from a different time? Like, it seems like her response isn't necessarily "it never happened to me." Her response is, "I got over it."
It sounds very antiquated. Her response sounds from a woman from, like you said, of a different time, of how she was raised and how she was told to do things. I think we talked about. Sir Ian McKellen talked about how women would sit back when he was younger and beginning in acting, how they would just tolerate and put up with things because that's what was acceptable and that was the norm of that time. So Catherine Deneuve sounds of that time. But I think here's the thing. With money and privilege, you also have the opportunity to be informed and be of the world and to be present in what's happening now. And it's very irresponsible of her to not do that, to not realize that across the pond, in around the world alike, this is an issue, this is a problem. And for her wealth and her privilege, she should also be privileged to educating herself and to being fully versed in these things. That it's irresponsible if you ask me.
Yeah, and like in the workplace, like my parents met at work, and they seem to have navigated it without anyone getting sexually molested or feeling the way that the Me Too movement and the call out your pig movement is focused on articulating. Like, there is, she makes it seem, Deneuve makes it seem like no one can be sexual beings anymore. And the answer to that is there's a time and a place. And the time and place isn't when I'm like trying to get this edit done before the deadline. It's not a time for you to put your hand on my knee as I'm frantically making changes that you requested, that my job is to follow and my job is here because of you. It's just such a weird thing. And there is this feeling that when there is a change to the status quo, that people are somehow, some people come out with this feeling that they're betraying who they are as a person. When really I think the Me Too movement is just like, wouldn't it be better? Like, I understand you might say it didn't kill you, it made you stronger. I understand that, and that's your journey or whatever. But wouldn't it be better if you didn't have to deal with that shit?
Right.
I think is at the baseline, something no one can really disagree with reasonably, right?
Yeah, I think of kind of an example in my own life was that my mom has been pretty open ever since I was growing up, that she grew up in New York and she was groped on a subway one time, and it always stuck with her. She always told me this story because there were people on the subway car that knew that it was like kind of happening and that
They didn't do anything. That's what usually happens.
They didn't do anything. And so I have heard this story ever since I was a kid growing up. And my mom has been like she's a tough lady, but she's always said like that if you ever get in a situation like that for whatever, if anyone ever like preys on you in that way that I experienced, you fucking call them out. You speak up. Basically, it reminds me of the Me Too movement where it's like, this has happened, but wouldn't it be better if it didn't? Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's sort of.
It's not belittling the fact that she made it through whatever was terrible.
It wasn't like my mom was like, I went through this and it made me tough, so kind of. It might happen to you and it'll make you tough too. It was like, you should you should expect better. We should treat each other better. We should be speaking out about this.
With her, it feels a little bit like Stockholm syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Some of her best friends are, now are people gonna come after my best friend Roman Polanski? It sounds like such a witch hunt. That's so long ago. That's not who he is. He was just flirting. The case is solved. She can't relate, to women. She feels that, I don't know, if that's her opinion and she feels that you should be easily able to shake these things off, I feel that really she's just suppressing everything she's went through. And she's not able, if you're gonna, accept what happened to you, to be able to, empathize with other people, that's a hard step to take. So I think she's not ready to do that. It's much easier for her to side with the guys surrounding her saying, oh my God, what's gonna happen to me? They might come after me.
I never thought about that, that's brilliant, yeah.
Well, we'll leave it there for this story.